As a child, I was very animated and expressive, albeit probably annoying to a lot of my family, but it was just part of who I was. I liked acting. I like high energy things, and I was pretty expressive, at least from what I can remember. There's a lot of memories from my youth that I don't remember. Not sure if it's blocked out from some trauma or I just forgot. But I've been trying to dig into my past as a process of self-healing, because there are parts of myself that I know need to be healed so that I can be my whole self. I've been wrestling with the potential reality that because of peer pressure and dealing with certain experiences, I started to shut down and close off my naturally creative and expressive self, because I was afraid of being seen as gay, which of course is more complex than just someone's sexual preference growing up as a young black boy. Being labeled gay meant a whole lot, and it was something you wanted to avoid at all cost. I think about the character Riley from the Boondocks and how he responded to all things with,
"I love you, man. Nigga, you gay."
And it makes me think about my own childhood and upbringing, how toxic masculinity or the peer pressure of patriarchy turned into a prison for a lot of boys and young men, including myself. As a creative and expressive child, I was odd. But in reality, I was just a child. I was being human. But at some point, when you have to interact with other humans, particularly male humans, you find out that certain things you do or say can be judged as wrong or inferior, like being too expressive, or not liking certain things, sports or certain types of music, or even being affectionate. Like I remember one time I was going to school, I might have been in like the second or third grade or whatever, and it was a classmate that I hadn't seen all summer. You know, it's a long time for kids. But upon seeing him, I gave him a hug. Later, I was corrected by my father to say, "We don't do that. We don't do that. We don't hug other men. We don't do that." And you know, along with that, the idea was like, if you do that, you're gay. It automatically puts you in a place where you're gay if you're expressing that. And the idea of being gay was less about sexual orientation, I believe, and more about identifying character flaws or weaknesses about you. Being gay meant you weren't cool, or you were weak, or in an extreme case, you were diseased, meaning that because of the way you act, I don't want to be associated with you or relate to you, because that would then lower my social status. That would in turn mean that I'm gay, and there's something wrong with you, and there's something wrong with me. And sadly, a lot of these experiences for me happened before I was 10. And I know that's been the case for a lot of black men. When you experience things like that so young, it sticks with you. It influences the decisions you make out of social survival, placing us in emotional incarceration, shout out to Jason Wilson, and what I would call patriarchy prison, where we develop this mindset, this paradigm that stunts our ability to be whole and free as healthy human beings. I like Professor Odie's breakdown of naive stoicism, and here's this clip talking about it.
All right, so men have really run amok with this idea of what stoicism is, and I'm sorry to bust y'all bubble, but it's not what it is. But before we get into that, how y'all doing? My name is Professor Odie. I'm a pre-licensed therapist in the state of Pennsylvania, and I'm also an emotional intelligence and regulation coach. And my objective is to continue to give people reasons to either seek out therapy or life coaching to understand themselves in a deeper manner so they can build and manifest the quality of life that they're looking for. So, real quick, a lot of men practice what's called naive stoicism, and it's actually a relatively new term. So there was a paper written in July of this year that says naive stoicism is actually bad for your mental health. And no, this is not anti-masculinist propaganda. This was a study done by philosophers and psychologists across the world. And these scientists are saying that y'all misunderstanding of stoicism is causing you the unhappiness that you blurt out all over the internet. Let's continue. So according to this paper, naive stoic ideology is defined by 4 assumptions. Stoic taciturnity, basically not talking about your emotions. Stoic serenity, stoic endurance, which is once again that enduring physical suffering, and the death acceptance, right? But notice how this paragraph says these things aren't necessarily not stoicism. It's just the way that it is that we practice them is vastly oversimplified. This leads to why it is that naive stoicism is damaging for most men. And the paper literally says the more you try to deny your feelings or the less often you talk about them, the more damaging it is to your health. Now, the reason why this study was interesting, they say it's a limitation, but once again, as a behavioral scientist, it's interesting because the population that they used in order to gather this conclusion were college students, male college students. That means that a lot of you all as men, the most vulnerable populations of men, are internalizing an ideology that's killing you. And in no way, shape, or form am I saying stoicism is not an appropriate, once again, philosophy for you to follow. But just like this paper says, a lot of y'all have not done the emotional work and the research in order to properly understand what stoicism is and how it works. So once again, this paper did note some benefits to stoicism. But y'all really gotta understand, emotional intelligence and logic does not equate to emotional suppression. Take responsibility for your true emotions, take real accountability in growing those emotions, and have the discernment to move yourself away from people who will not allow you to experience the entire emotional gamut. And a good place for that would be therapy or life coaching. So once again, I hope y'all tune in to the rest of the series because
I thought his explanation and take on naive stoicism is so critical and important because, again, a lot of us have been taught that being expressive or showing your emotions very often would be classified as gay. But doing that, clearly, in the paper that was shared, suppressing your emotions and not being expressive and not really being your full human self actually causes damage to you. The patriarchy prison paradigm has done such a number on us in our community that it is difficult to even embrace our humanity. If you were interested in things other than sports or gangster rap or getting girls, even if you were elementary school age, it was highly likely that you would get Riley's response to your whole existence.
You who thinks everything in the world is gay? Nigga, you gay. You gay. Y'all niggas are gay. Nigga, you gay. That's gay. Don't find any of this gay at all.
And it's sad because so many men are still trapped by that. Still trying to heal from being picked on or bullied just because they were being human, just because they liked singing or acting or dancing, or they liked to talk about things other than girls, cars, and sports. Whether it showed up in intelligence, creativity, or even emotional maturity and expression, if you weren't fitting the patriarchal paradigm, you risked catching the disease of being gay. Of course, we're living in a more progressive time, or at least trying to, where being a human and having whatever your interests are doesn't directly correlate to your sexual orientation. It also doesn't equal a lower social status. But there's still a lot of work in unpacking and unlearning that needs to happen, because even with all of our progressiveness, we still have to deal with our misogyny and misogynoir that sits at the root of a lot of toxic masculinity and patriarchy prison paradigm we struggle with, like calling each other bees and pussies as an insult. The patriarchy prison paradigm thrives off of the degeneration, dehumanization, and disrespect of women, particularly black women. It's a toxic idea and system that contaminates the entire community. I understand, out of survival, a lot of men have taken on masks and chains that hinder their ability to be free and to be whole. I'm one of them. Whether that's being in touch with your emotions, being able to genuinely express yourself, or even embrace affection not tied to sex or romantic intimacy. A lot of men still feel uncomfortable giving hugs to other men because they hear Riley's voice in their head.
Nigga, you gay.
The thing is, if we want to become beneficial, if we want to be healthy, if we want to be whole, we got to get rid of these ideas. We got to get rid of naive stoicism. We have to get rid of this patriarchal prison paradigm. We have to get out of emotional incarceration and just embrace being healthy, whole, happy, and free humans that can embrace the full gamut of expression, the full gamut of life and experiences. And until we do that, we'll just continue to be stunted and stuck and suffer. But hopefully you'll start to tune out Riley's voice as you grow and heal. Peace.